I'm really glad that is dead because it's very important, and believe me, I know him, to the whole world, not only to the Israel state, to the whole world, because his dream was to kill Israeli Jews and infidels. That was his big dream.
In 2011, he was one of more than thousands of prisoners released by Israel in exchange of an Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit.
Soldier Gilad Shalit was captured in 2006 by Palestinian military.
We will come to you, God willing, in a roaring flood. We will come to you with an endless number of rockets. We will come to you in a flood of soldiers without limit. We will come to you with millions of our nation, tide after tide. He did it on October the 7th, 2023, but it brought an unprecedented Israeli response as well. And now, none of his top leadership is alive. And even he himself is no more. It took Israel more than 1 year to find and kill him, because he probably was using Israeli prisoners as human shields. DNA from his body was taken to further investigate and confirm his death. IDFs already had his DNA samples, as he was his prisoners for more than 2 decades. Bitton spent years working as a dentist in Israel's Nafa prison. It was there he met Yahya Sinwar, saying he saved his life by helping diagnose a brain tumor. Bitton says he spent hundreds of hours conversing with Sinwar, providing him with rare insight into the mind of the top Hamas officials. But his actions have left him tormented. Bitton blames Sinwar for the murder of his nephew, who was killed after Hamas militants raided his home on October the 7th. In 2004, Sinwar had come to the prison's clinic complaining of neck pain and losing his balance. When he explained to me what was happening to him, I diagnosed it as a stroke, and together with the general practitioner, we decided to take him to the hospital. He was diagnosed with brain tumor and he was operated on that day, thus saving his life, because if it had exploded, he would have died. Following his recovery, Sinwar told Bitton that he owed him his life, a sentiment he repeated when he was released in 2011 prisoner swap, which saw Sinwar and more than 1,000 other Palestinians freed for Israel's soldiers, Gilad Shalit. He told me on the day he was released that he owed me his life and one day he will repay it. But years later, that connection meant nothing. And as you understand, he made up for it on October 7th, that he was also directly responsible for the murder of his nephew, said Bitton. Bitton said his nephew, Tamir, was seriously injured trying to fight off the attackers. There were only 5 of them. They didn't really stand a chance, and he was kidnapped while he was still seriously injured, unconscious, and died after a few hours in Gaza. Bitton, who later joined Israeli intelligence, came to know Sinwar well during his time in prison, spending hundreds of hours talking to him. Bitton says Sinwar believed that Jewish people have no place on Muslims' lands. Bitton therefore saw it as only a matter of time and timing that they will act against us and try to expel us from the place where we live. Despite 8 months of Israeli fighting in Gaza, which has killed more than 37,000 Palestinians, Sinwar remains at large and thought to be sheltering somewhere in the territory. When asked for his assessment of Sinwar's mindset, Bitton says the Hamas leader is mainly concerned with staying in power. He believes Sinwar would be willing to sacrifice even hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in order to ensure the survival of his rule. He is willing to pay with the lives of militants, Hamas members, civilians. He doesn't care. Sinwar spent his more than 2 decades in prison studying his enemy, including learning Hebrew. It is a lesson Israel should have taken too, says Bitton, who believes the government and intelligence services did not know and learn Hamas well enough. Our attitude towards Hamas was arrogant. We dismissed Hamas, and Hamas said everything it intended to do, but we didn't want to listen.